Hi, this is Seth Miller, and I'm the Executive Director of the Innocence Project of Florida, and this is our March 2011 video blog. Today we're going to give you an update on the Derek Williams case, but mostly we're going to talk about what's coming up in the legislative session for the 2011 session, which is about to start here in March. First, March is our month that we are having our Derek Williams hearing. It's going to take place on March 15th and 16th, with a third day on March 22nd at the courthouse in Bradenton, Florida, which is in Manatee County. If you're in the area and you want to come out and support Derek Williams and support the Innocence Project of Florida, we're going to be in that hearing all day on those days. You can come to the courthouse. It's in courtroom 4A in front of Judge Gilner, and you'll be able to come see us in action and see our client Derek Williams, and hopefully see us prevail and get him a new trial, and hopefully leads to his release from prison. So again, that'll happen on March 15th and 16th, and with a third day on March 22nd, and we'll look forward to all your support. Every year in March, the legislators come back to Tallahassee, Florida, where we live, and invade our city to pass laws that are supposed to forward progress in the state. Now, of course, this year we have a big budget crisis, and there will be lots of cuts, but luckily this year we do have 3 pieces of legislation that affect the Innocence Project of Florida and our clients and the work that we do, and I want to discuss them a little bit with you today. The first piece of legislation deals with eyewitness identification reform. Now, we've been talking about in our last couple months the Innocence Commission, which is dealing with this issue of witness misidentification, and we were hoping that the Innocence Commission would come up with a proposal that then the legislature could adopt. That would be a very comprehensive proposal that would take into account all the best practices that science has told us for the last 30 years will help prevent misidentifications and wrongful convictions. Well, the Innocence Commission is about to issue that proposal later this month, but in the meantime, Senator Joe Negron and Representative Perry Thurston have filed identical bills in the legislature, which, if passed, would give Florida the most comprehensive witness identification reform bill in the country. So those bills are Senate Bill 1206, again sponsored by Senator Joe Negron from Stuart, Florida, and House Bill 821, sponsored by Perry Thurston, who's from Broward County, Florida. And the great thing about this bill is that it has everything that the Innocence Project of Florida would want in the bill. It has all the really good instructions that the person who's administering the lineup must give the witness to help prevent them from making the wrong identification. It also requires, this mandates for all law enforcement agencies to do their lineups in what we call sequential double-blind manner. And this is designed to help remove any suggestiveness from the lineup procedure and help them, again, not make arbitrary identifications that lead to wrongful convictions. So we're very excited about these bills, and we're hoping that the Innocence Commission will come up with a proposal that asks the legislature to adopt this legislation, and that Florida will have the strongest witness identification law in the country. Now, if you want to call up Senator Negron or Perry Thurston, Representative Thurston, to thank them for sponsoring these bills, you can do so at the numbers that are on in the screen right now. And again, call them up, talk to their staffers, talk to them, and thank them for taking the lead on this issue of witness misidentification. Now, second very important piece of legislation that's been filed deals with capital punishment. Now, Florida has a unique distinction of being the only state in the country that, while we require a unanimous jury verdict of guilt for first-degree murder to make someone eligible for the death penalty, we do not require a unanimous jury verdict to actually give that person the death penalty. So in Florida, a very split jury, by a simple vote of 7 to 5 majority, could give someone a death sentence, even though 5 people in that jury think that they should spend the rest of their life in prison instead. And in cases where there's legitimate issues of innocence, that the fact that there's serious doubts about guilt is corroborated by such a close vote on a death penalty, having such a rule that allows such a mere majority vote to give a death sentence makes it much more likely that innocent people will be sent to death row and may be executed. So we have two identical bills in the Senate and the House, Senate Bill 1066 and House Bill 979. Senate Bill 1066 is sponsored by Senator Altman, and House Bill 979 is sponsored by Representative Julianne. And these bills will change that law, and they're going to make it any jury who wants to sentence someone to death, they're going to have to do so by a unanimous verdict, just like every other state in the country that has a death penalty system. Again, this is a very important piece of legislation that will help protect innocent people from being sent to death row and being executed. And we really hope that you'll call up Senators Altman and Representative Julianne to thank them for sponsoring this bill and taking a lead on this issue. And you can do so by calling the numbers that are on your screen right now. And the last piece of legislation that I want to talk about is an amendment or revision to the Victims of Wrongful Incarceration Compensation Act. Now, back in 2008, the legislature passed a compensation bill for exonerees, but unfortunately has a lot of problems. And we have been trying for a few years now to fix those problems through a revision in the legislature. Unfortunately, the revision that has been filed in the past 2 years and again this year is woefully inadequate to really fix the problems with the bill. The current legislation has a thing in it called the Clean Hands provision, which many of you I'm sure have heard of. And this horrible provision in the bill says that if you have a felony conviction prior to your wrongful conviction, so you have, let's say, you pass a bad check and get a third-degree felony for a check fraud, and then 2 years later you were picked up for a rape that you didn't commit, spend 25 years in prison and get out through DNA testing and you're exonerated, you cannot get paid because of that previous felony, that previous check fraud. We at the Innocence Project of Florida and many of you out there think that's unfair, and we think that Clean Hands provision should be removed from the bill. Fortunately, this provision does not remove the Clean Hands provision, and we're asking that you call up the sponsor of this bill and your legislators and tell them about this bill. It's Senate Bill 250, sponsored by Senator Arthenia Joiners from Tampa, Florida, and we're thankful to her for sponsoring this revision, but with your help and the help of all our friends out there, we can put pressure on her and the rest of the legislature to do what's right and take that Clean Hands provision out of this bill, and also put some provisions in there that help shelter exonerees from federal tax burden. They shouldn't have to give half their money that they so rightly deserve for their wrongful incarceration to the federal government off the top, simply because we couldn't fashion a piece of legislation that allows for the state of Florida to enter into agreements to make that compensation non-taxable. So again, this is Senate Bill 250. You can call Senator Joyner at the number on your screen right now. Thank her for sponsoring the bill, but urge her to make revisions to remove the Clean Hands provision and protect 100% of the money from tax liability for exonerees. This bill has already been referred to the Judiciary Committee and the Criminal Justice Committee and the Budget Committee in the Senate, and as we move forward in future blog entries and on our blog and in our correspondence with you, we'll tell you how you can get in touch with other legislators on those committees to urge them to do right by exonerees and help more exonerees be compensated. Now, if you want to support the Innocence Project of Florida, you can go to our website, and we have a button on there, many buttons on there to contribute financially or in many other ways. If you want to continue this discussion about these legislative issues or any other issues related to wrongful convictions, you can do so on our blog, Plain Error, which is at floridainnocence.org. That's www.floridainnocence.org. And that's all for this month, and we'll look forward to talking to you next month to let you know how the Derek Williams hearing went and give you an update on how this legislative session is going. Thanks a lot, and see you then.